So let me fill you in on what's been going on why I haven't uploaded videos for the past several weeks. See, Fortnite Cubed event has happened. Well, it's still going on, but basically all around the map there are these cubes, and I have my replay file here to show you exactly what's going on. I've been using mostly Dark Bomber for most of these, but anyways, I thought I should show you. So when it started, when you saw my initial video, or like when I was checking out the season, I was all the way over there at, over by Dirty Docks, and I was noticing that there was a cube there. And as I made that video, I thought to myself, at some point, the cubes are going to eventually move. So basically what happened was then we had a cube over here that was starting to move. I actually have a few of the files. I'll probably throw one up now in editing. But it was basically moving back and forth. And all the other cubes kind of did the same thing. They were moving around. And then about, Friday-ish, the gold cube, which was right about here, finally started moving. And that didn't move a lot. Well, I thought it was just going to move periodically. Like it would move, and then it would take a long time before it would move again. But no, it just started moving, and then started moving way faster than all the other cubes. So something obvious was up. And so it ended up taking this entire pathway around. I have a lot of footage that I'll throw up of me tracking about around half of these moves. And even one with like a flip, which was kind of very weird. And it actually smacked part of the house a bit earlier as well before that flip. Before it did like a teleport and the house was repaired for some random reason. And then it came up here to about around the house, and I watched it go around. And then I went off to bed, and by the time I woke up, it was already basically awakening the first cube. And so then I'm like, well, what's going to happen now? So I think I watched the other cubes move while that cube moved or something, but the gold cube was right there. And then afterwards, the cube then had babies. I wasn't online to see them, but some of them started moving, so I'm like, maybe they follow a path. So I'm watching them as they kind of carve their own little path around the cube. They're kind of like moving around it. But then I'm like, let's not watch them. And then, crazy enough, the gold cube finally starts moving. Meanwhile, that's happened. The gold cube that has sat down started moving off towards Pleasant Park. Now, about this point, I started realizing there was a periodic point. I had already figured this out with a guy named Rubik on Twitter. Basically, he figured out these times way faster than I did. I didn't have them timed out, figured out. So while I did end up missing the second cube move for the one over by Believer Beach, I did not miss Pleasant Park. See, after it got awakened, I happened to nail 2 consecutive moves in a row. And with that information, Rubik instantly figured out when the cubes would start moving again, and basically figured out the periodic stuff. So then the gold cube made its way across the northern part of the map here, and made its way all the way over to Steamy Stacks, where a cube started over there. And about this point, I had been in kind of regular contact with Cube Tracker on Twitter, because they were a small conglomerate that just started up of several creators and leakers, and they were tracking all these cubes moving around. And so by tracking this, so the Steamy Stacks cube basically here got awakened, but then it ended its awakening way more abruptly than usual. And using Rubrik, because I was in regular contact with him at that point, it started moving. And during the time that the gold cube was moving across over towards the Dirty Docks cube, and the other 2 cubes had their babies and were moving towards their location as well, 2 different things basically happened. One was we realized that by that point we had the 1810 update that the cubes weren't moving on the exact path. And then we realized more steps were actually added to their moves, which meant that they were not moving at the exact same pace they initially were, because they were now taking those steps into account. And then there were also skips on top of that, which I wasn't counting, and neither was Cube Tracker. The second thing was, by the time it reached Dirty Doc's cube and started getting to awaken it, that's when I joined Cube Tracker. Yep, I actually joined them. And if you noticed at the beginning of the video, I had a Dark Bomber. And if you look at all the videos of Dark Bomber, then you will see that that's where I started recording. And so I followed, that's where I documented the cube as it made its way away from Dirty Docks towards Misty Meadows. And kind of crushed Sloan, almost. And so then it reaches Misty Meadows finally and activates that cube, which was cube number 4. And it has babies. And yada yada yada. A little bit of weird kind of effect. I was asleep or something. I'm not sure. I wasn't online when this happened. And then the cube finally started moving off, which I started tracking, down away from Misty, around to Sludgy Swamp, which I did record some of that going on. And then it made its way across the lake. Well, not lake, a swamp, sorry. It made its way across the swamp, and by this point, most of the people on Cube Tracker had other things to take care of. So basically, it was just me and one other person tracking off. And so we kind of had 12-hour shifts of tracking them until it finally reached the Misty Meadows cube, which I was fortunate enough to actually record that occurring. So it starts moving away. It moves at a way faster pace than initially expected. Because we were kind of expecting it was going to move around every 5 hours or so. But it started moving every 3 hours. And that honestly doesn't seem like much. But if you start tallying up how many moves it's supposed to take, that it's planned to take, and then add that, you do realize that there's a big gap of multiple days. So while the Weeping Woods cube did make its way towards where it currently is right now, over here by near Believer Beach, actually more like Boney Burbs. It's closer to Boney Burbs than Believer Beach now. And so then the golden cube comes all the way over through these trees, and now it's currently right here. And so if we watch, and what happened at this point was I happened to be online watching the cube. Now, a few hours prior, I was online, but it moved to this final position. And that was in the files of 1810. Now, because it was 1820, now that this is 1820, I knew that it was going to most certainly move one more time. And if it didn't do it at 5:20, it was most certainly going to do it at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And so I'm watching a cube, and I'm over on the side kind of like updating some stuff on the charts that we have tracking it, and watching it. So I'm actually at the computer, but I'm not actually looking at the cube as it moves. And so, I lost track of time for several seconds. And then all of a sudden, I look back, and this happens. The cube vanishes. And I look over, and as soon as it disappears, I look over and realize it's not there. And so, I'm like, where is it? And then I hear this, and then I see this hologram, as you can see in the distance. And I'm like, wait, the gold cube's over here? And so, I'm running over to watch this cube basically, it glitched, basically. And so, the only thing that was running right now was, you could only see the awakening part of the gold cube. The gold cube had technically completely disappeared. So you had to reload the match and it was there. And so then we've had 7 awakenings now, and at this point, we have no idea what's going to happen next. So, watch over on Twitter on Cube Tracker during the time that I usually run my shifts of watching the cubes move, and watch to see if anything happens, because if anything happens, I will document it over there along with others. Luckily, some of them are finally coming off their breaks because they've had like school and real life stuff to attend. That will be what we know what'll happen next. We have no idea. However, next week we're getting 1821, which is also a downtime with a download, which means in 1810 they had in the files Cubetown, but in 1820 they removed the files. So that means 1821, when it comes around, they'll most likely add the Cube files. Usually these awakenings take 22 hours, and this occurred about 1.5 hours ago that it started. They'll usually take 22 hours. However, I think this will probably last until all the other cubes finally arrive, or it might do things in phases that it might cause the water to change or something. And if it does do that, then I will also document that as well. So hopefully you've enjoyed this kind of what's going on video of Fortnite Storyline Season 8 Cube lore.